old farm tradition.
Michael Torres stood in his shop on a Saturday morning in March 2019, looking at what he'd just found inside a 1958 Farmall 560. His hands were shaking. Inside a fabricated steel box hidden behind the engine block, wrapped in multiple layers of plastic and duct tape, were stacks of bills. 20s, 50s, hundreds, old bills, mostly from the 1970s and early 1980s. He'd bought the tractor 3 weeks earlier for $50. Advertised on Facebook Marketplace as "Parts Tractor, doesn't run, free if you haul." Michael offered $50 just to be respectful. The seller, an elderly woman named Dorothy Brennan, had accepted immediately, seemed relieved to have it gone. Michael counted the money on his workbench. $127,460. $127,460 hidden in a tractor he'd bought for $50. The question wasn't what to do with the money. The question was whose money it was and why someone had hidden it in a tractor. Let's go back 3 weeks. February 28, 2019. Michael Torres, age 34, was scrolling Facebook Marketplace on his lunch break. He restored old tractors as a side business. Bought them cheap, fixed them up, sold them for profit, mostly Farmalls and international harvesters. His specialty was the 560 and 806 models from the late 1950s and 1960s. An ad caught his eye. 1958 Farmall 560 doesn't run, has been sitting in shed for 30-plus years, free to anyone who can haul it away, located in Tama County. Free tractors were rare. Even non-running 560s had value, $800 to $1,200 in parts. Michael clicked through the photos. The tractor looked rough, flat tires, faded paint, surface rust. But the engine and transmission were worth something. Michael messaged the seller, "I can pick it up this weekend. Would you take $50 just so you know I'm serious?" Response came back within an hour. "Yes, Saturday morning good, 8 a.m.? Michael arrived Saturday, March 2nd, at a farmhouse outside Toledo, Iowa. Small place, maybe 10 acres. The Farmall was in a pole shed behind the house. An elderly woman, maybe late 70s, met him at the driveway. "You're here for the tractor?" "Yes, ma'am. Michael Torres." "Dorothy Brennan. It's in the shed. My husband died 6 months ago. I'm selling the property. New buyers don't want the tractor." Michael walked to the shed. The 560 had been sitting there a long time. Covered in dust, mice had nested in the seat, birds had gotten in through gaps in the shed walls, but structurally it looked intact. "When's the last time it ran?" 1984, I think, maybe 1985. My husband Walter parked it in here and never touched it again. Said he was going to fix it someday. Never did." "Why'd he park it?" Dorothy hesitated. "Walter was complicated. Had his reasons for things, didn't always explain them. Michael hooked the 560 to his trailer, winched it up. The tires were rotted, wouldn't roll smoothly, took an hour to load. Dorothy watched from the house. As Michael was securing the chains, Dorothy called out, "That tractor meant something to Walter. I never understood what. But he was particular about it. Wouldn't sell it. Wouldn't let anyone touch it." "Why sell it now?" "Walter's gone. I'm moving to assisted living. Can't take a broken tractor with me." Michael paid her $50 cash. Dorothy took it, folded it carefully, put it in her pocket. Walter paid $3,000 for that tractor in 1958, worked it hard for 25 years, then just stopped, parked it, never said why. Michael drove home with the 560 on his trailer, got it to his shop, unloaded it, let it sit for 2 weeks while he finished other projects. March 16th, 2019, Saturday morning. Michael decided to start working on the 560. First step, assess what's salvageable. Engine, transmission, hydraulics, rear end, sheet metal. He started with the hood, unbolted it, lifted it off. Underneath was decades of grime, mouse nests, old oil. He used compressed air to blow out debris, Standard restoration work. He moved to the engine block, started removing components to see what condition everything was in. Alternator, starter, fuel pump, carburetor, all covered in grease and dirt. Then he noticed something odd. Behind the engine block on the right side, there was a rectangular metal box welded to the frame. It wasn't original equipment. Someone had fabricated it and attached it there. About 12 inches by 8 inches by 6 inches deep. Michael had restored dozens of Farmalls. Never seen anything like this. Custom fabrication, definitely not factory. He tried to remove it. Welded solid. Wasn't coming off without cutting. He got a flashlight, looked at it more carefully. The box had a seam. It was designed to open, sealed shut with what looked like silicone and duct tape that had hardened over 35 years. Michael got a utility knife, carefully cut through the seal, pried the lid open. Inside, plastic sheeting, multiple layers wrapped tight. He pulled it out, set it on his workbench, unwrapped the plastic. Inside, more plastic, and inside that, stacks of bills wrapped in rubber bands. Michael stared. Didn't touch them at first, just stared. Then he started counting. 20s, 8,400, 50s, 31,200, hundreds, 87,160. Total, 127,460. Michael sat down on his shop stool. His first thought, this isn't mine. His second thought, whose is it? His third thought, what do I do? He called his wife Carla. You need to come to the shop right now. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Just come. Carla arrived 15 minutes later. Michael showed her. She counted it again to confirm. Same total, 127,460. This was in the tractor, hidden in a box behind the engine. Michael, you need to call the police. I know, but first, I want to understand why it's there. That evening, Michael did research. Searched online for Walter Brennan, Tama County, Iowa. Found an obituary from September 2018. Walter Joseph Brennan, age 83, died peacefully at home. Survived by wife Dorothy, 2 sons, Kenneth and James, 1 daughter, Patricia. Preceded in death by parents and 1 brother. No mention of farming, no mention of the tractor, just basic information. Michael decided to call Dorothy. Got her number from the original Facebook message. Mrs. Brennan, this is Michael Torres. I bought your husband's tractor a few weeks ago. Oh, yes. Is something wrong with it? Not exactly. I found something inside it. I think you should know about it. What did you find? I'd rather show you in person. Are you available tomorrow? Dorothy agreed. Michael drove to her house Sunday morning, March 17th. Brought photos of the money, but not the actual money. Didn't want to drive around with $127,000 cash. Dorothy answered the door, invited him in. Small house, sparsely furnished. Looked like she was in the process of packing. What did you find? Michael showed her the photos. Dorothy looked at them without expression, then sat down heavily in a chair. He told me he lost that money. What? 1984. Walter came home one day, said he'd lost $127,000, said it was gone. I thought he'd been robbed or scammed. He wouldn't give details, just said it was gone and we had to move on. But he didn't lose it. He hid it. In the tractor, in a metal box behind the engine, sealed up. Must have taken planning. Dorothy was quiet for a long time. Then, Walter was afraid. Afraid of what? Everything. The government, taxes, banks, people. Walter grew up poor during the Depression. Never trusted institutions, never trusted anyone. Kept secrets his whole life. Do you know where the money came from? Our farm. We sold 160 acres in 1979 for $310,000. Made about $200,000 profit after paying off the loan. Walter reported $73,000 of it to the IRS, hid the rest. Thought the government would take it if they knew. He evaded taxes on $127,000? Yes, kept it cash. Then in 1984, got paranoid that IRS would audit us. Decided to hide it. Told me it was lost. Didn't tell me where it really was. Why the tractor? Walter loved that tractor, bought it new in 1958, first major purchase we ever made, worked it for 25 years. It was sacred to him. I guess he thought hiding money in something sacred would keep it safe. Did he ever plan to retrieve it? I don't know. He died without ever mentioning it again. 35 years, never said a word. Michael and Dorothy sat in silence. Then Dorothy said, "That money isn't mine." "Boor, what do you mean?" "Walter hid it from the IRS. It's tax fraud. If I claim it now, I'd owe taxes, plus penalties, plus interest. Probably $200,000 total on $127,000. I don't have that kind of money. Besides, I'm 80 years old, moving to assisted living. What would I do with it?" "So what should I do with it?" Dorothy thought. "Legally, it's probably mine. But morally, I don't know. Walter stole it from the government. You found it honestly. The statute of limitations on tax fraud is 6 years. This happened 40 years ago. IRS can't come after it anymore." "Are you saying I should keep it?" "I'm saying Walter hid it so well even his wife didn't know where it was. You bought the tractor legally, found the money through honest work. If I tried to claim it, IRS might investigate, might find out about the tax fraud, might go after my estate. My children would suffer." "Mrs. Brennan." "Keep it, Michael. Walter would appreciate the irony. He hid money from the government in a tractor. 40 years later, a tractor restorer finds it. That's what Walter would call justice." Michael didn't agree immediately. He consulted a lawyer. The lawyer's opinion: complicated. Technically, the money was part of Walter's estate. Dorothy was the executor. But Dorothy was disclaiming it. If Michael tried to return it and Dorothy refused, it became abandoned property, finders keepers in most states. The tax fraud angle was murky. Walter had died. The statute of limitations had expired decades ago. IRS couldn't pursue it. Dorothy hadn't known about the money, so she hadn't committed fraud. Michael finding it wasn't fraud either. The lawyer's advice: if Dorothy Brennan gives you written permission to keep it, you're probably clear legally. Ethically, that's your call. Michael went back to Dorothy. "The lawyer says if you give me written permission, I can probably keep it legally." Dorothy wrote a letter, dated March 20th, 2019. "I, Dorothy Brennan, executor of Walter Brennan's estate, disclaim any interest in money found inside the 1958 Farmall 560 tractor sold to Michael Torres on March 2nd, 2019. I affirm that this money was unknown to me at time of sale, and I voluntarily relinquish all claims to it." She signed it, had it notarized, gave Michael the letter. "What will you do with it?" she asked. "I don't know yet." "Can I make a suggestion?" "Of course." Walter was terrified his whole life, afraid of losing money, losing the farm, losing security. That fear made him hide $127,000 in a tractor and lie to his wife for 35 years. Don't let money make you afraid. Use it to live free. Michael took the letter, took the money, went home, told Carla everything. They made a plan. First, 27,560s to charity. Walter had hidden the money out of fear and greed. They'd give part of it away to counteract that. Second, $50,000 to pay off their mortgage. They'd bought their house in 2015, owed $52,000. This would clear it completely. Third, $50,000 to savings, emergency fund, kids' college fund, retirement. Total distributed $127,460, the entire amount. They kept nothing for luxuries or splurges. By end of April 2019, it was done. House paid off, savings funded, charity donations made. The money from the Farmall was gone, but the freedom it created remained. Michael finished restoring the 560. Didn't sell it. Kept it. That tractor had changed his life. Seemed wrong to let it go. In December 2019, Dorothy Brennan died. Age 80. Peaceful. Michael attended the funeral, met her children, Kenneth, James, Patricia. They knew about the money. Dorothy had told them before she died. Kenneth, age 58, approached Michael. "Mom told us what you found, what you did with it. I hope that's okay." "More than okay. My father hid money his whole life, died with secrets. You found it and used it to create freedom. That's better than what he did with it. Your mother was generous to let me keep it. My mother was tired of secrets. She didn't want that money. It represented everything wrong with Dad. The fear, the paranoia, the inability to trust. She wanted it gone." James, age 55, added, "Dad worked that 560 hard, 1958 to 1984, 26 years, then parked it and never touched it again. We asked him why. He said it was broken, but it wasn't broken. It was a hiding place. He couldn't work the tractor because working it might expose his secret." Patricia, age 51, said quietly, "Dad died in 2018. In 2019, you bought his tractor, found his secret, and used the money to free yourself. That's redemption." The funeral ended. Michael went home, looked at the 560 in his shop, fully restored now, bright red paint, new tires, rebuilt engine. It looked like it did in 1958 when Walter bought it new. Michael thought about Walter, a man so afraid of losing money that he hid $127,000 in a tractor and lied to his wife for 35 years. A man who died never telling anyone, never using the money, never benefiting from his own fraud. What a waste. Michael had bought a broken Farmall for $50, found $127,260 hidden inside, used it to pay off his house, fund savings, help charities. That money, hidden for 40 years by a fearful man, became freedom for a man willing to use it wisely. In June 2023, 4 years after finding the money, Michael was featured in a farming magazine article about tractor restoration. The reporter asked if he'd ever found anything unusual in a tractor. Michael smiled. "Once I found some old tools. Another time I found a bird's nest with 3 eggs, nothing too exciting." He didn't mention the money. That was between him, Dorothy, and Walter. Some secrets stay secret even after they're discovered. But every time Michael looks at that 1958 Farmall 560 in his shop, he thinks about Walter Brennan, a man who hid money so well that even he couldn't enjoy it. A man whose fear created a prison. Michael bought a broken Farmall for $50. What he found under the hood was worth a fortune, but the real fortune wasn't the money, it was the lesson. Don't let fear make you hide. Don't let paranoia make you lie. Don't let greed make you suffer. Walter hid $127,000 in a tractor and died without enjoying $1 of it. Michael found it and used it to create freedom. Sometimes the fortune isn't what you find, it's what you do with it. But the full story of Walter Brennan and that hidden money requires understanding who Walter was and why he lived in such fear. Walter was born in 1935, height of the Great Depression. His father lost a farm in 1937 to bank foreclosure. Walter was 2 years old. He grew up watching his parents struggle, move from place to place, work other people's land, never own anything. That experience marked Walter permanently. He became obsessed with security, with ownership, with never being vulnerable again. In 1955, at age 20, Walter married Dorothy. They rented a small farm, 80 acres, from an elderly widow, worked it on shares, saved everything, lived in a tiny house with no running water for the first 3 years. In 1958, they'd saved enough to buy their own land, put down payment on 160 acres for $24,000, borrowed $18,000, put down $6,000 cash. That same year, Walter bought the Farmall 560 new for $5,200, financed $3,800, paid $1,400 down. Those 2 purchases, land and tractor, represented everything Walter had worked for. He was 23 years old, owned land, owned equipment. He'd escaped his father's fate. Walter worked that 560 hard, 1958 to 1984, 26 years. Put 14 T's 800 hours on it. Plowed, planted, cultivated, harvested. That tractor was the tool that kept the farm profitable, kept the loan payments current, kept Walter's family fed. By 1970, Walter had paid off the land, owned 160 acres free and clear, should have felt secure. Didn't. The fear never left. In 1979, a developer approached Walter, wanted to buy the 160 acres for a housing subdivision, offered $310,000. Walter had bought it for $24,000 21 years earlier. The profit would be $286,000 before paying off the remaining $86,000 loan, net $200,000. Walter agreed, sold in May 1979, received $310,000 total, paid off the loan, netted $224,000 profit, slightly more than projected because loan was nearly paid off. Now Walter faced a choice, report the entire profit to IRS or hide part of it. In 1979, capital gains tax was 28% on $224,000. That would be $62,420 in federal taxes, plus state taxes. Total tax bill, approximately $70,000. Walter decided to report only $73,000 in profit, paid $2,440 in taxes, kept the other $127,260 cash, never deposited it, never reported it. This was tax fraud, federal crime. If caught, Walter could face prison, massive penalties, loss of everything. But Walter was terrified of paying $70,000 to the government, couldn't accept it. So he committed fraud. For 5 years, 1979 to 1984, Walter kept that $127,460 cash in various hiding places. Under the mattress, in the barn, buried in the yard. Always paranoid, IRS would audit him, find it, prosecute him. In 1984, Walter's paranoia peaked. Reagan's IRS was cracking down on tax evasion. Walter convinced himself an audit was coming. He needed a better hiding place. He thought about the Farmall 560. That tractor had worked for him for 26 years, had earned the money that kept him afloat. It was sacred. If he hid the money in the tractor, it would be safe. Walter spent 3 weekends in April 1984 fabricating the metal box, welded it to the frame behind the engine block, made it look like part of the tractor's structure, wrapped the money in plastic, sealed it in the box. Then Walter parked the 560 in the shed. Told Dorothy it was broken, needed a rebuild he couldn't afford. Bought a used International 806 to replace it, never touched the 560 again. Why didn't he use the money? Because using it meant exposing it. Spending $127,000 would raise questions. Where'd Walter get that money? He'd have to lie, create elaborate stories, easier to leave it hidden. So Walter lived the rest of his life, 34 years, 1984 to 2018, knowing he had $127,000 hidden in a tractor, but unable to touch it. The money became worthless to him because accessing it was too risky. He died in September 2018, age 83. Never told Dorothy where the money really was. Took the secret to his grave. Dorothy knew about the tax fraud. Walter had told her in 1979 that he was minimizing taxes, but she didn't know where the hidden money was. When Walter said he'd lost it in 1984, she believed him. Thought maybe he'd been scammed or robbed. For 35 years, Dorothy lived thinking they'd lost $127,000, when really it was sitting in a shed 20 feet from their house. Michael Torres discovered this history gradually after finding the money. Talked to Dorothy multiple times. She filled in details. By April 2019, Michael understood the full story. Walter Brennan, born in poverty, traumatized by his father's failure, obsessed with security, terrified of loss. Worked hard, saved carefully, bought land, achieved success. Then committed tax fraud because he couldn't bear to pay what he owed, hid the money so well he couldn't use it, died without ever benefiting from his own crime. Michael thought about this constantly during the restoration. Every time he worked on the 560, he thought about Walter welding that box into place, wrapping the money, sealing it up. The care Walter took, the planning, the paranoia. Michael finished the restoration in July 2019. The 560 looked perfect, started easily, ran smoothly, shifted through all gears. He could have sold it for $12,000 to $14,000. Excellent profit on a $50 investment plus restoration costs. But Michael kept it. That tractor represented something, a cautionary tale, a warning about what fear does. Michael used the money wisely. The mortgage payoff saved him $52,000 plus approximately $18,000 in interest over the remaining loan term. Total savings, $70,000. The $50,000 emergency fund gave him security. If he lost his job, had medical issues, faced any crisis, he had cushion. The $27,460 in charitable donations went to 3 organizations: Food Bank, $10,000, Farm Family Crisis Fund, $10,000, and Historical Society Preserving Agricultural History, $7,060. By using Walter's hidden money for practical purposes and charity, Michael felt he'd redeemed it somehow, turned something born from fear and greed into something that created freedom and helped others. The irony wasn't lost on Michael. Walter hid $127,460 to protect it from the government and never used it. Michael found it, used it to pay off debt, reducing future interest to government, saved the rest, and donated to charity. The money accomplished more in Michael's hands in 6 months than it did in Walter's hiding place for 35 years. In August 2020, a year and a half after finding the money, Michael got a call from Walter's son, Kenneth. "Michael, I wanted to tell you something. After Mom died, we went through Dad's papers. Found a journal he kept from 1984 to 1990. He wrote about the money. What did he say? That he'd made a terrible mistake, that hiding it was stupid, that he wished he'd just paid the taxes, that the fear of being caught was worse than the crime. Did he say where it was? No, just that it was hidden safely, and that he'd retrieve it someday when it was safe. He never did. Died thinking the secret died with him. How did your mother cope with that, knowing he'd lied? She was angry at first. When you told her in 2019, she was furious. Dad had lied to her for 35 years about $127,000. Made her think they'd lost it. Made her live with less because he was hiding money they could have used. But she let me keep it, because she was done with Dad's fear, done with secrets. She said the money was poisoned. If she took it, she'd become like Dad. Always worried about IRS finding out, always looking over her shoulder. She wanted nothing to do with it." Michael understood. Dorothy had chosen freedom over money, let go of $127,000 to escape the fear that had consumed her husband. In September 2023, Michael was working in his shop when a young man knocked on the door. Early 20s, looked nervous. "Are you Michael Torres?" "Yes. I'm Daniel Brennan. Walter Brennan was my grandfather. Walter's grandson." Michael invited him in, showed him the restored 560. Daniel looked at it carefully. "My grandfather bought this new in 1958. My dad showed me pictures. It looks exactly like those pictures now. I restored it completely. Engine rebuild, new paint, new tires, everything. Dad told me you found money inside it. I did. How much? A lot. Your grandmother let me keep it. I used it wisely." Daniel nodded. Grandpa was paranoid, never trusted anyone. My dad said Grandpa's fear ruined his life, made him lie, hide, live in constant anxiety. That's accurate. I want to thank you. For what? For using the money for good. My dad said you paid off your house, saved for your kids, gave to charity. That's better than what Grandpa did with it. He hid it and suffered. You found it and used it to create good things. Michael was touched. Your grandmother made that possible. She could have demanded it back. She didn't. Grandma hated that money, hated what it represented. She told Dad before she died that letting you keep it was the best decision she'd made in years, said it freed her from Grandpa's legacy of fear. They talked for an hour. Daniel had never met Walter. Born in 1998, Walter died in 2018 when Daniel was 20. But Daniel knew the stories, the paranoia, the secrets, the fear. My dad is different from Grandpa, Daniel said. Dad is open, trusting, generous. He learned from Grandpa's mistakes, decided to live opposite. That's wise. That tractor changed our family. Grandpa used it to hide fear. You used it to restore something beautiful. That's redemption. And after Daniel left, Michael sat in his shop looking at the 560. That tractor had been built in 1958, worked hard for 26 years, parked in 1984 with a secret hidden inside, sat unused for 35 years, bought by Michael in 2019 for $50, restored. Now it runs perfectly, looks beautiful, represents a lesson. Michael started the 560 occasionally, let it run, listened to the engine, thought about all the hands that had touched this machine. Walter in 1958, young and hopeful. Walter in 1984, paranoid and hiding money. Dorothy in 2019, selling it to escape her husband's legacy. Michael in 2019, finding the money and choosing wisdom. In December 2024, Michael still owns the 560. It sits in his shop, fully restored, worth $12,000, $14,000. People ask if he'll sell it. No, that tractor taught me something valuable. Can't sell the teacher. What did it teach you? That fear is expensive. Walter hid $127,000 to avoid paying $70,000 in taxes. The fear cost him 35 years of anxiety, destroyed his peace, ruined his relationship with his wife. He died without using a single dollar of that hidden money, all because he was afraid. And you're not afraid. Not of the right things. I'm afraid of wasting life, afraid of letting fear control me, afraid of dying with regrets like Walter did. But I'm not afraid of paying what I owe, trusting people or living honestly. Walter's fear destroyed him. I won't let fear destroy me. The story of the $50 Farmall with $127,460 hidden inside spread through tractor restoration communities. People asked Michael for details. He shared the basics, but kept some things private. Dorothy's pain, Walter's journal, the family's struggles. But the lesson he shared freely: don't hide from life. Don't let fear make you lie. Don't sacrifice peace for money. Walter Brennan bought a Farmall 560 in 1958 for $5,200. Worked it hard for 26 years. Used it to hide $127,460 in 1984. Parked it and never touched it again. Died in 2018 without ever retrieving the money. Michael Torres bought that same tractor in 2019 for $50. Found the money. Used it to pay off his house, build savings and help others. Same tractor. Different men. Different choices. Different outcomes. Walter died anxious, afraid, full of secrets. Michael lives free, generous, honest. The difference wasn't the money, the difference was what they did with it. He bought a broken Farmall for $50. What he found under the hood was worth a fortune. But the real fortune wasn't the cash. It was the choice to live differently than the man who hid it. Sometimes the greatest treasure isn't what you find, it's who you become after finding it.